Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Second Mouse Podcast.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, he's back.
Fuck you.
Oh, there you go. Now you're perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't my internet, so I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna start out hot here, guys.
First and foremost, before we get started, can we just acknowledge how wrong we all were about the national championship final score?
Yeah, I didn't think
You specifically.
We took the under. We took the under big time.
I don't know what you're talking about. I said Georgia wins 65 to 10. I don't know. I called it perfectly. I don't know what you're talking about.
Gatto,
By the way,
take the tape.
Gatto,
Take
can
the
you
tape.
can you delete the last episode just in case? Thank you. I'm gonna come out hot here and say Duval. Okay. Jacksonville Jaguars, my lock of the week last week. And it wasn't perfect, but they fucking did it.
Jacksonville is Thunderdome right now. The fact that they won that game, like it was going to be typical Jacksonville when they were down 27-0 at the end of the first half, and then they just storm right back.
It was 27-0 and they scored right before the half ended. And I literally said it in the Discord, guys. I said, don't underestimate Brandon Staley's ability to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And said Brandon Staley said fucked up.
What is it about the Chargers and the Falcons that just they love losing in the most heartbreaking ways possible?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, that was bad. I was at a bar. Granted, I was in a bar, not really paying attention to it. And for every reason I shouldn't have to, right? Like it was 27-7 at half. And I was like, this game's fucking over. Trevor Lawrence doesn't look great.
4 interceptions in the first half.
Yeah, I get home and I'm watching TV for a second. Then all of a sudden I flip over to that. I'm like, holy shit. And it's like, Jaguars are celebrating. Everyone's happy. And I'm like, what the fuck happened?
No. Thank you, Mario. Mario, thank you for dropping in a question. Absolutely fucking not. That lovely story of the Jacksonville Jaguars is over after this week because Patrick Mahomes is gonna fucking stomp a mud hole into them. I think all right, so let's start with Brandon Staley, right? Because what the fuck do you do with him at this point?
I mean, we talked about that last week, right? That the Chargers reluctantly got into the playoffs. You're like, oh, fuck, we have to hang on to this guy. We really wanted to fire him, but we can't now. I think this is the best way that you can fire him, where you just tell everybody, like, look, they blew a 27-point lead against a team that they were supposed to beat. Did they play? Where did they play? They played in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, because Jacksonville was the division winner.
Not exactly like a resounding home field advantage in Jacksonville, but I think this finally gives San Diego the ability to fire him, hire Sean Payton.
Los Angeles, Tom.
Whatever. They're San Diego because they blew that fucking game.
Yeah, you earn Los Angeles.
And, yeah. The Rams earned it.
Earned it by being fucking terrible. Mario dropping in. He thinks that they beat Kansas City. That's bold. I don't know, man. I don't see Kansas City losing this year, but I don't know, man. We've been talking about teams of destiny, right? And like the Giants are kind of giving you a little bit of that. Like I think Philly beats them this Saturday, but Jaguars could be that team of destiny, but I don't know. I just don't think I don't think the Chiefs are going to lose.
I mean, watching how much they had to like Trevor Lawrence has to fight for every inch on that football field, man. It's not an easy road, and he's going to go against teams that make it look fucking easy, right? And that's the problem. You got to be on that level for the next round. Like all the luck runs dry after this week. right?
I will say though, it's a Doug Peterson coached team, and for what it's worth for Peterson, like they've done this before in Philadelphia where they were not expected to do a whole lot, and he was able to at least put something together so that team was competitive, and they were fortunate enough to go to the Super Bowl and they won it. I don't think the Jaguars are going to win the Super Bowl, but I think there is more fight in that team than what people assume because it's basically filled with first round top 10 picks. They've got a lot of guys who are really talented on that team. Trevor Lawrence, for what a shitty first half was, the second half, I think, is really telling for him, and he deserves a lot of credit. But also Travis Etienne as well. Evan Ingram, former Giant on that team. I'm a big Andre Cisco fan.
You just had to throw that fucking thing in there, didn't you?
And I agree with Mario about this, is that Jacksonville's defense is fucking good and kept them in that game for sure. I mean, it's got to be statistical anomaly that a team rests their offense in on a quarterback that throws how many picks? 4?
He threw 4 in the first half.
Four in the first half, right? And their go-to receiver was Evan Ingram. And as a Giants fan, I could tell you that is
scary.
Not the horse I want to bet on in a race. Let's put it that way.
But all right, I'm bringing this back to Brandon Staley because you're a fucking defensive head coach, right? He was the Rams defensive coordinator before taking this job. How do you let that happen? Like, I mean, come on. Like that is unexcusable, especially when you look at what the Colts went through with the Vikings. Like, you have to know that it's a playoff game. It's 4 fucking quarters. And like, I don't know, like, I mean, I understand being confident going into the half, but like, it's just ridiculous.
I mean, you just fall asleep. Like, you literally just decided to take a nap on the sideline at that point, right? Like, there's no other answer. Like, nothing. You have nothing. You can't come up with anything. Like,
there's no plausible way that Jacksonville wins that game. Jacksonville had 5 turnovers, right? Like, and you think like anything that's like 3 or more turnovers, like there's a good chance that you're going to lose that game. They had 5, I think, in just the first half alone. And they were able to march back. And I don't know whether it's just Brandon Staley's inexperienced and he doesn't know how to like motivate a team for the entire time, or he's just overthinking it. But dude, like, you just need to coast at the end of the game. Like, give the ball to Austin Eckler and the backup running backs and just like burn the clock as much as you can. And they were not able to do it.
There's a thing about momentum, right? Because like, if we're going to talk about the Giants and the Vikings, but the momentum seemed like it was swinging a lot back and forth. And the second half of that Jags game, it just felt like Chargers had no momentum at all. And like, I mean, like, you have to switch it up a little bit. It's obviously not working. Like, if you start seeing that lead start to evaporate, you got to do something different. You got to be able to change the game plan a little bit. And it just felt like I think everyone kind of felt it. Like, it's like slowly but surely, it just started, the leads started evaporating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're a Chargers fan watching that, you kind of had this sense of like a slow speed train wreck coming your way. It was, and you couldn't look away. You had to. And there were certain things too that like they did not need, like Joey Bosa at the end of the game slamming his helmet not once but twice.
What do you think he said to that ref? Because like, they zoomed in on it, and he says something, and then the ref like literally runs after him and then pretty much like throws a flag. He must have said something fucking pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. There's been a lot of people saying that this is just the refs doing more than what they deserve. Or like,
in the Giants game, yes.
Yeah, they're trying to like take all the attention away, but like, I mean, there's a whole other team that had reasons to be upset, and they didn't do that either. I think just Bosa's a weirdo.
Well, yeah, him and his brother Mario.
I won't say 100%.
Mario. Mario wrote that Chargers fans were like, "Here we go again." Yeah, how many times can you fucking have this happen? Where like you're seeing like you're blowing these huge leads. I mean, the Chargers usually just lose these games like constantly. Now, going forward, Tom, you kind of alluded to it. I think Denver's probably pissed right now because I think Denver was the favorite to land Sean Payton, and now the Chargers. I mean, they haven't fired Staley yet, but like it's still early in the process. I have a feeling that he's goner sooner rather than later. And I think they become the favorite because, I mean, if you're stacking both jobs equally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get to coach Justin Herbert or I get to coach old ass Russell Wilson. I'm picking Herbert every single time.
There's pieces there for sure.
And like, yeah, there's already a defense that is really rock solid. And Keenan Allen's getting up there. Mike Williams can't stay healthy for shit, but like you can always add targets. So like, I mean, Justin Herbert can make it work with people, but I have a feeling now the only thing that could happen is tonight if Tom Brady is, by the way, undefeated against the Cowboys in his career. In games that he has the most wins of any quarterback in games that he is an underdog in, which they are. They are home. Mike McCarthy, not necessarily the best guy in these hyper pressure situations. There's a chance that the Cowboys blow tonight, and I feel like McCarthy's got to go. And do the Cowboys get in on the Sean Payton thing? And remember, Sean Payton, I think there's been a connection there with Jerry Jones for a while. So this could be interesting for Sean Payton.
Yeah, and I just want to go back real quick just to the Chargers, because Mario asked the question about does the coaching change help? From what I'm seeing online right now, it doesn't look like Staley's out.
No, nothing's been decided yet. Herbert did give him a pretty nice endorsement, but
the team is backing him, and there's a report Chargers are strongly considering keeping him around. So I don't know. Maybe they just let this happen and they say, we'll try next year. Next year, probably next year he's definitely on the chopping block, right?
I'm wondering if they give him the old fashioned, like, we're going to fire one of your guys, put a former head coach in as a coordinator. And if you can't get it done in like the first 6 weeks of the season, you're done. And we're just going to go in that direction. So, they'll find like a more apt offensive coordinator or somebody who's got head coaching experience. And then, if they're 2-3 to start the year, or even 3-3, their expectation is to go to the Super Bowl, and if they can't get it done with Staley, they're going to find somebody who can. So
it's such a bad idea though, because like you're almost kind of like basically sacrificing another year then, because like and honestly, like Staley, you're not coaching well if you're ultimately making decisions to stop yourself from getting fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're making decisions like this is the whole reason why I said Joe Judge should have been fired before 2020, because you could tell he was coaching for his job rather than doing the things that like a confident coach would do if they knew they had the endorsement. So with Staley, you either have to like double down on him and give him an extension, like even if it's just hack another year on whatever, to be like, no, we're behind him 100%, or you need to just fire him, clean house, and move on.
Yeah, it's weird when you have a team that won 10 games in the regular season, but maybe Tom's suggestion of you bring in a OC that has some postseason experience that can help right the ship.
Frank Reich.
Maybe.
Again, he's got experience with that team, so I don't think it would be the worst idea. And he's an offensive guy, and that's what they need. They're sneaky good on defense, but I think a lot of those guys are like retreads from other teams. Like Khalil Mack is not the same guy he was like 4 years ago at this point. So
no, and they went out and they paid a lot of money for J.C. Jackson of Mario's Patriots, and he was a major bust. Got benched and then he got injured, so just not great.
Yeah, so they're in a tricky spot, but I know that you had a question, Q, but I just want to go back to one other thing. Like, are we still in a position where we think that Trevor Lawrence what do you say for the 4 interceptions in the first half, and then what do you say for the touchdowns that followed it?
I think there's two things to be said. One, he is still very much a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, he shows incredible fight and spirit, right? Because he didn't let that get him down, and he was able to continue out that game and get to a level to perform to put their team in places to win. And both of those things are very juxtaposed. They're kind of conflicting, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely just not refined, and I think only with experience, because let's look at Danny Dimes, right? Like, he was notorious for trying to force the play, right? Try to make a
Mhm.
play happen, and it was turnover city. And that's what I felt like the first half. It was Trevor Lawrence trying too hard, and making bad judgment calls, throwing off your back foot, trying to get it in the place that it's not supposed to be, making bad reads, kind of being reluctant to throw it to like the right choice on the route runs. It was that you saw in that first half, and he was able to bounce back and make the adjustments and calm himself down and continue. And that's tremendous, because a guy like that, he's going to try his ass off, and he's going to perfect his game over time. So I think if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, you are excited about what the future holds with Trevor Lawrence for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd agree.
I 100% agree. And like the biggest thing when it comes to quarterbacks is confidence, right? And like a lot of guys, when they have a bad game like that, they go into a shell and they just evaporate. And like they lose confidence, and then that's what leads to worser games. The fact that he was able to like throw 4 interceptions, kind of just shake it off, and then end up getting a win, it's going to be a footnote. No one's going to give a shit in
Yeah,
like next week.
yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
like next week, you just shake that off. You won. Who gives a shit? Move
I
on.
think most people already forgot that he had an abysmal first half, right?
No one
And
cares. Yeah.
and Mario's right. It's they started him right away, and conventional wisdom says that's not the move with any quarterback you hope to wrap your franchise around, right? They're going to be gun shy for a very long time that way, and maybe their entire career, because that's the experience they get coming into the league. So I honestly, my hat's off to Trevor Lawrence. Like, congratulations, man, great game.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's I I think this game will be a bigger test, because if he goes out there and he has another meltdown game, like if he does that again but then doesn't I don't think anybody's really thinking about it though. He's also 23 years old, so it's
Yeah,
like you can the fact that he's even
plenty of
in the
time.
playoffs, I feel like is good enough to make you feel pretty good. And that division, let's be real, that division is not going to be good anytime soon.
No,
So
he's safe for now.
yeah, yeah. So I don't think it's gonna matter. Tom, I want to shift it a little bit. Because
Mhm.
you know what? Commanders are out of the playoffs, and we'll get to the Giants eventually. I've been reading up on the Commanders, and it looks like 2 guys have kind of emerged as potential candidates.
Oh fuck.
Um, former Giants head coach Pat Shermer
Oh god.
and former Lions coach Jim Caldwell,
Yeah.
which I kind of really like. But we talked about it yesterday that me and Combs actually had made kind of a good point that watching the Giants and watching how they've treated Daniel Jones, it actually kind of fits what Sam Howell can do.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like should try and mimic that offense. Where would you want to go with the Commanders offensive coordinator? Based on what you
If
know
it's
now.
Pat Shermer, I'm walking into the fucking woods. I'm taking the headset off and I'm walking into
I
the
don't know,
woods.
man. Like, listen, he's not exactly what you want as a head coach, but like, so he's not a bridge guy. So like, if Ron's getting fired midway through, I don't think he's like an inspiring guy to be taking over. But like, did good things with Minnesota. Wasn't bad for Denver. He made Teddy Bridgewater look like a playable quarterback. I don't know.
I am
Daniel
I
Daniel
am
Daniel Jones' rookie year was very good. So I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, I'm curious of what Jim Caldwell would be, because I think he's gotten kind of like he has not been given the chance that he deserves. I mean, he had a winning record in Indy, he had a winning record in Detroit. Um,
Mhm.
I think
Well,
if you want to create like an offensive unit that is very disciplined, which is a good thing for them because they are always notorious for penalties and just brain dead plays. I think that's a good option, but I'm also wondering too, like this coaching staff already feels incredibly stale as is. Like Ron Rivera didn't even know they were out of the playoffs.
QAnon Jack.
QAnon Jack. Like they are going in the opposite direction of all those guys that have left and have ended up taking other jobs. So I'm wondering, like, is there somebody that they can find who's like a receivers coach or a quarterbacks coach from Kansas City, from LA, from another up and coming program that they can scoop in, grab that person and be like, hey, you ran these really cool plays with all these other guys. Let's see what you got here. And then go from there. I think they need a little bit of energy on that team because they play really conservatively on defense. I don't really want, like, if the team is not going to be good, I'd rather them be aggressive and not good than conservative and boring. Like, I'd rather have them lose 50-49 than the games that they've been losing where it's, 15-6 or some shit like that.
Well, I've thrown it out there that like I don't want to see this happen, but I think it wouldn't be bad if you guys hired Shea Tierney, who was the Bills' assistant QB coach. He's now the current QB coach for the Giants. I think that style. I think if you look at how they're playing Daniel Jones, that's kind of how you want to play Howell. He did rush for 1,000 yards in his last year at North Carolina, so he is a good runner.
Mm-hmm.
Maximizing that ability to be able to like run and pass. So I think it's a good offense for him. And plucking from a very good staff right now. And this is the thing that's worrying me. But I want to also throw out something for you, Tom.
Mm-hmm. Lay it on me.
Are you? So we were all seeing what happens with the Ravens, right? Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson did not travel with the team, which is a big thing. Now, it could be.
I have a thought on that, but I'll let you finish.
Okay, could be nothing, right? It could be that they have a rule that they don't travel injured players, right? Maybe he stayed home for rehab. There seems to be some friction, and it more than ever. It feels like they're gonna try and move on from him potentially. Sam Howell. Or trade a couple first round picks and go all in on Lamar Jackson.
I mean,
in a normal world, Lamar, but I think I want to see what Sam Howell can do because the last couple of years they've tried to find guys who are outside of the program, as I call it. And it hasn't
the
worked.
Program, Tom.
Hey, get with the program, Gatto. I'm still hesitant to do something like that because I think if this team is like barely functioning as it is, like it has a decent defense, offense has its moments, but I am afraid if they get Lamar, they're going to have to pay him. They're not going to have enough money for anybody else in that team, and we're going to be right back to square one. Except we're going to have a really good quarterback, but on a really shitty team. I would rather them try with Howell and continue to draft offensive talent around him and then just see where it goes. Like, I love Lamar Jackson. Don't get me wrong. But I think that's not a good fit for him. But also, it's not a good fit for Washington because they are still too dysfunctional to have somebody like him. Like, they need to have like a young guy playing so they can find themselves through that process. But to go back to the thing about Lamar, I heard that last night too when I was watching the game where they're like, Lamar didn't travel. I'm like, yeah, probably because he doesn't want to make this a big fucking thing. Like every time that Tyler Huntley makes a mistake, they're going to cut right to Lamar Jackson and be like, that could have been him out there. I have thoughts about the people who are critics of Lamar Jackson in my Asshole of the Week segment, but I think it was smart for him not to be there because it would just distract people too much. Like all of the questions would be all about like Lamar's here, can he play ? Every time Huntley fucks up, they're gonna like cut to him and then blame Lamar for it. And I think for the sake of shifting some of the narrative away from him, it's probably good that he wasn't there.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't moment,
I
right?
agree.
Like he wasn't going to come out of it looking good either way. Just the fact that some people think that, this was a decision on him. He went out on Twitter and he said, "Look, this is a grade 2 PCL sprain, bordering on a grade 3. It is not ready for gameplay." And you know what? He's absolutely right to worry about the longevity. If he wants to be there for his team or for his career, he needs to take care of getting healthy before playing. And like we're a week ago, we saw what happened on the football field where someone nearly lost their life, and it's like we need to remember that these are people that are putting their bodies on the line every Sunday, right?
Yeah, and it seems like Baltimore is trying to make like really passive aggressive plays at him not playing, and
Like to lower his value for negotiations,
to lower
or
his value, but also turn the fans against him too. And that really bothers me, especially a team like Baltimore, who's never had a good fucking quarterback in the entire history of that entire franchise.
Flacco?
Excuse me? The elite Joe Flacco?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
I'm going to make that claim.
That's bold.
Tom said what he said, folks.
He's the best quarterback they've had on that team from a talent perspective and an output perspective. Like,
how dare you?
Joe Flacco, despite being elite, never won an MVP.
Listen, I think this whole situation, I don't blame him for feeling the way he feels, because he's seeing that they're paying everybody else around him, and it just doesn't seem like they're coming even close to where he wants to be. So, and like for anybody who is like, I think Michael Vick said put a brace on it and play, and then RG3 actually had a good response, like him wearing a brace, and like that game that pretty much ruined his career, where he played, I think it was a playoff game, if I'm correct.
Yes, it was.
And he went out there. Yeah, I remember that game.
It was brutal. He was just getting destroyed.
Shanahan left him out for dead.
I thought they were going to have to scrape his leg off the field at one point.
Yeah, I was rooting for the Seahawks pretty hard in that game, obviously.
I know. We were watching it together.
We were at Hurricanes. I was just going to say, we were at Hurricanes. They had the craziest deal of the century. God, I missed that deal.
That thing, it was like what, 5 free wings every time you ordered a beer. It was crazy.
Yeah, get like a 30-ounce beer or whatever, or 20-ounce beer, and then you get 5 free boneless wings or whatever. And it was just like, oh man, I used to leave there so drunk and full.
That was a day shift bar for us. Like you go there at 1, you don't leave until like 9:30.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, even I felt bad during that game. I was like, just get him out of there, man. Put Cousins in at this point. It's just disgusting. So
yeah, and not because of the wings.
We used to get to the point where we'd be like, what flavor you want this time?
No
I'm
more.
like, I can't eat any more wings.
No, give them to the person who's like staring through the window.
Yeah,
I just don't need these anymore.
Give it to Tiny Tim.
Please, sir, I want to play some Powerball.
All right, so I'm gonna get there. The New York fucking Giants, baby. I had a feeling they were gonna win this game, and it was pretty deflating, though. I'm not gonna lie. When you just watch the Vikings just streak down the field, and it just felt like I'd seen this movie before.
That opening drive, it was like, oh, are we gonna get the Giants that can't get anything going? They're not able to make the adjustments to get stops. It was like, are we gonna watch that? And then we did not. we watched something I don't think Giants fans have ever really seen before.
Well, I mean, Daniel Jones picked a perfect time because again, we've never seen Daniel Jones in a playoff game before. And we all know that once the playoffs start, like it's a completely different animal. We don't know what it's going to be. And we've seen even better quarterbacks kind of fold under the pressure of it all.
Fuck the name Danny Dimes, like Danny Houdini. All right. He's like performing magic on that field. Literally, he did that handoff, fake handoff.
Trickery.
Oh, that was smooth. I wish it actually had ended up being a good play for them, because that deserved to be a good play. It
would have been all over SportsCenter forever.
What a fake! Oh, it was so good.
So first quarterback in NFL history with 300 plus passing yards, 2 plus passing touchdowns, and 70 plus rushing yards in a playoff game. 24 of 35, 301, 2 passing touchdowns, and 78 rushing yards. I mean, you can't ask for anything. No turnovers on his part. There's really nothing else to say regarding his performance. He is just stepping up when you need to step up. He's doing it with poise. Like I think for so long when we used to watch Jones play, there was always that fear of like whenever he took off and ran, I was always worried. I'm like, he's gonna fumble it. He's gonna fumble it. Slightest little hit will jar the ball loose. I don't even think about that anymore when he goes for a run. Like it's conditioned out, and good for him. I'm happy for him because he's making himself a lot of money. He's a free agent at the end of the year. I assume the Giants are going to franchise him at this point because just in case not to let him hit free agency, because I'm pretty sure at this point the Colts, one of those teams, will probably offer him a lot of money if he becomes available. So I'm happy for him. And Saquon, didn't rush a lot, but he had a couple really nice runs, couple good catches. Overall, the entire team stepped up and played a clean game, and that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, I was really impressed with them, and I was coming in and out of that game because we were in the middle of that bathroom renovation. So I had it turned on, and whenever I needed to go do something or like de-stress, I would go and watch them. And I think I didn't see the Vikings' first touchdown, but I did see the Giants' first opening drive where they scored. And honestly, I have not watched as many Giants games as you guys have this year, but the ones that I have, I mean, I watched the 2 against Washington, but they seemed like they were trying to just play within themselves, and it was very, very conservative, and it was very like they kept everything real close. This was just like, screw it. Like, we're in the playoffs. No one thought we were going to be here. Like, if we're going to lose, we're going to play like an exciting game. And Daniel Jones, where did that confidence come from, and where the fuck has it been all year?
I think it just showed up the 2 weeks ago when they clinched that playoff position. I mean, he came into that game and he was just on fire, and I think once he realized he could actually do that himself, like it changed the whole demeanor.
The throws were great.
Yeah.
And Q said, like, he's polished now. He's been well coached, I think, in ways, and that doesn't mean he's not due for a potential like relapse or some struggle down the road. I mean, especially with the playoffs going into next week, the Eagles are going to be there to make him miss. But like I just seeing what he was doing was just outstanding on that field. And I also want to say that, there's a lot of other things that started happening, right? Isaiah Hodgins,
He's a monster.
what an absolute beast, coming out of the blue, getting cut from the Bills, joining the squad, and instantly becoming a saving grace for this team, right? Saquon having a game, man. Those runs that he was breaking, I mean, his first two runs, he was averaging what, 20 yards a run or something like that, 40 yards a run. It
Yeah,
was insane.
I think he had like 5 rushes for like 60 yards. Something. It was something crazy like that.
Darius Slayton had a nice game too.
He did, but unfortunately, his
But we
calling
only
card has
remember-
been drops. Yeah, no, I know it
The
sucked
only thing we end up
because
remembering about his play was that he missed that critical wide open pass,
I'll tell you what, though, that what was that Jordan Love, that pick that was called back?
Julian Love, yeah,
Julian Love, yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I was rooting for that one because I felt like at that time, like they had Cousins kind of on the ropes, and if they were able to get that pick and do something with it, like it would have been a backbreaker for Minnesota.
It would have been a sledgehammer to all their momentum at that point. I do, Mario brings up, that roughing the passer call. That was absolutely terrible call. I actually kind of wish the NFL would send out like a formal apology for such a bad call. I mean, it was god awful. And it's a shame because I don't think enough holding was called in that game on the Vikings.
There was a
Uh,
play that the touchdown play that they threw to Osborne.
yeah.
You literally see the offensive tackle bear hug Thibodeau to the ground.
Hmm.
Also on the same play, McKinney gets like a natural pick, which is just offensive pass interference, pretty much. And like that, there's a reason why he was sitting wide open, but like Thibodeau got bear hugged to the ground. It was insane.
Yeah, it was bad.
Regarding, I still don't know, by the way, regarding the roughing the passer, did they call it on him because of the blow to the head, or was it because he spun him to
But
the ground?
there was no helmet to head like there was no helmet to helmet contact. There
He kind
was
of forearms him to the head, but it's not that bad. And when he spins him to the ground, he didn't throw him to the ground. He still Cousins ended up on top of Lawrence at the end, so
I
it's not
don't
like he landed weight on him, you know.
remember this is unnecessary roughness call, right? It
It's also
is
the NFL too.
it
So
well, yes, but like it's like the category of penalty here is unnecessary unsportsmanlike conduct, right? I don't think there's anything unsportsmanlike that. He was making a play, the ball was in his hand, and he didn't grab into like typically they don't call anything unless you grab into the helmet or you jar the neck downward. So I didn't see anything there that granted the call to be made there. And frankly, we saw it the last time the Giants played the Vikings. It seemed like when momentum was slipping in one way or the other, especially in one way, it just seemed like calls were coming faster than one would expect. And yeah, and that's exactly that was my take too. Was that he treated Cousins with care and respect, taking him to the ground.
I also think like we just need to have an idea of like what is roughing the passer at this point, because at the end of the day, if he still has the fucking ball in his hand and he just throws it out while he's getting tackled, number one, I haven't watched that play back. I wanted to see if it was like intentional grounding because I don't know if there was anybody in the area. So if he's completing a forward pass, and if that's what we're calling it, right, then I want to see if there was somebody in the area because you could have called intentional grounding on that play. But secondly, if you're tackling the whole definition of roughing the passer is you're tackling the quarterback way after the play has been completed. So he's thrown the ball 1, 2, 3, you sack him, right? So you're basically just trying to hurt him at this point. When you're sacking a quarterback with the fucking ball in his hand and he just throws it away last second before he hits the ground, I don't know. I don't know what the definition. The NFL has to fucking figure this out because it's especially. Listen, if you did it in a regular season game in the first quarter, okay, whatever. Who gives a shit, right? This is the fucking fourth quarter on a potential game-winning drive
that everyone's
Yeah,
watching,
yes.
by the way.
Yeah, you're doing it on national. I mean, like sometimes I feel like, man, they really like Vegas must be in fucking like. I like sometimes it feels like these games are fixed, man.
You know, and here's the funny thing is, Q, when we saw that happen, right? We're in the bar, we're watching that happen. Um, like we both thought it was a grounding call,
Yeah.
right? That it was
Yep.
intentional grounding because he threw it like right at the feet at where the line was. He wasn't outside of the tackles. It seemed like it should have been. And the funny thing is, we're all arguing about like, oh, is it like did he touch the mask or anything? But the referee that threw that flag is behind him, and he wouldn't have been
Mhm.
able to see that to begin with.
Yep.
So that becomes like, were you just ready to throw that flag because, you knew that if this didn't go a certain way, we needed a penalty? Like,
So
what's going on here? I don't want to be that conspiracy theorist. I
no, I
don't
know.
believe
But you're
that
gonna
the
be.
NFL is nefarious. But like, when we watched just the last game too, I was like, man, like these refs really do seem like they have like their own agenda for the way this game goes, and it turned out it did not go that direction. But
So two things I want to point out regarding Daniel Jones and the offensive play calling. You are right, Tom. There
good
has
point, Mario.
been there has been a change. It seems like Dable kind of like goes a little extra hard during the playoffs because you saw it last year with that Kansas City game, which was a fucking barn burner. As far as I was concerned, that was the fucking Super Bowl. Like that game. So I want to point something out. So Big Blue Panther podcast, which I love for Giants games, they break down, they do offensive and defensive breakdowns with the all 22 film. Dan Schneider, who's one of the hosts, he pointed out last night per Doug_analytics, all 17 of the Giants' first down pass calls resulted in a new set of downs. So the 17 fucking times that they threw the ball on first down, those plays went 10 yards plus.
And they were great calls too.
Fucking insane.
They were good routes, and the guys that the thing that blew me away was how open a lot of the receivers were that Daniel Jones was throwing to. Like, it was shocking in the sense of there's nobody around Hodgins, there's nobody around Slayton, and it was really impressive to see the separation those guys were going to get. And we've talked about this all year, right? Like, these are not premier receivers. Hodgins was cut, or they traded for him. He was a waiver guy.
He was a 6th round pick for the Bills 2 years ago at Oregon State. I liked him a lot coming out. I thought he was a day 2 pick. He went in the 6th round. The Bills just had too many receivers and they had to make a move. So he was a casualty. He was released. And obviously Joe Shane and Brian Dable both came from Buffalo. So they obviously knew the kid and they signed him. And again, whenever that happens, your expectations are so low and you're like, yeah, let's see what happens. Let's hope he can just even make the team after a couple weeks. I want to point out, because I'm going to talk about Hodgins a little bit later regarding Asshole of the Week. Not him. It will be somebody else. Fifth touchdown in 6 games for Hodgins. Yeah, he has become the number 1 receiver on this team.
The guy is pure hustle, man. Absolutely.
He catches 0 drops on the year, 0 drops on the season. Last night he played on a bum ankle.
That's bad. It looked bad.
That picture was awful. He posted it to Instagram. It was black and blue. 8 of 9. And by the way, his first fucking 100-yard game. 8 of 9. He catches pretty much everything. Also want to point out another stat from the Big Blue Banter podcast was Nick Filato, the other host, Daniel Jones on 2nd and long, so 2nd and 10. For fucking years, I watched Pat Shurmur and Joe Judge and all these guys on 2nd and long run the ball every single time. And if you look at the analytic numbers, it's the worst thing you can do because everyone is expecting a run on 2nd down. Now, you don't want to put yourself in 3rd and long, right? But at the end of the day, if everyone knows you're running the ball, they're going to load up the box and they're going to stop you. So on 2nd and 10, 2nd and 10 plus, when the Giants had passed yesterday, Jones was 7 of 7 for 76 yards and also had a 10-yard rush. The only negative play of that game on 2nd and long situations with passing was the deliberate sack that he took at the end of the game when he ultimately was trying to stew the clock.
Brilliant, because he had the ability to throw downfield and he was present. He had the presence of mind. He plays. That's the thing I think we're seeing about Daniel Jones is he plays smart football, especially now. He's he really. I mean, his blockchain is just out of control.
Credit to the offensive line though. Andrew Thomas, 0 pressures allowed on 44 passing snaps.
Really terrific all across the board. I mean, Kafka, you need credit too. You deserve that credit, man. Thank you for taking us away.
Stop. We no, Mike Kafka's a bad man. You don't want to hire him. He's terrible. You know what? As punishment, I think he should sign a 20-year extension with the Giants just as punishment.
Are you trying to neg him right now?
No.
Is that what you're trying to do right now?
No, he's a very bad person. I don't think anyone should hire him as a head coach. It's just a bad idea. It's just terrible.
He loves kale.
So while Q uses the art of the pickup to neg Kafka into staying, I don't think he's going nowhere, man. We're going to give him that money. People want him. Don't get me wrong. People want him, but
I fucking hope not.
I think he wants to be around to see this team do what they're going to do, man. There's a destiny here.
Dable said today because they're playing Saturday. It's a short week. Kafka's not going to interview with anybody this week. But the Colts, I think the Panthers, the Colts, and the Texans, I think have all requested interviews with Kafka. The Colts also are going to interview Wink as well, which is this is just a disaster for. Listen, I listen. All seriousness, I hope Kafka gets a job eventually, but It just was like, man, not after one fucking season. Like,
I think people will sniff around on him, but they'll want to see it again after another year. Like he's still really, really young. And if they're trying to get a feel for it right now. Like, how does he interview? Because I'd imagine that, he'll stay in New York for another. I think he'll stay in New York for another year.
I hope
next
so.
year. Because if he's able to make a jump with Daniel Jones, like he goes from like the 17 touchdown guy to the 30 touchdown guy with 4,000 yards or something close to that. And, they're a better team overall. I think then he gets the interviews. And frankly, I'm not interviewing seriously for any of those jobs. The only one that I probably would is if LA Chargers opens, or if like Denver promises me like Russell will be more Mr. Unlimited rather than Broncos country. Let's ride.
He'll be handing out sandwiches during the games instead.
Yeah, as long as I don't wake up in Russell Wilson's basement, like tied to a chair, and he's eating the danger witch
where he cures his meats. It's
spicy.
definitely where he cures his meats.
Be careful though about being the coach here. It's dangerous.
You're just strapped to a chair, and he's just there with like pepper jack, just slicing it slowly in front of you.
Oh, hey, you woke up.
Mario makes a good point. Yeah, Jones show you how bad coaching can stun a player, because Pat Shurmur, for all the shit he gets, is just being kind of a fuddy-duddy, boring guy. 24 touchdowns, 12 picks in I think it was 12 games for Jones in his rookie season. Under Garrett, he had 22 passing touchdowns in 2 years.
Well, Jason Garrett sucks.
I mean, so what? This is year 4 for him, right?
Yeah,
and he's this year alone, 25 accounts for over 25% of his thrown touchdowns in the league, right? So
15 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing, so 22 total. If you account the interceptions, which was 5, 3 fumbles, so it's 22-8 as far as so it was a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception or turnover ratio. So
I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that people think are a lot better with way more turnovers this year. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think
that's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. Dak had 14 since he came back from his injury. Literally since like week 6 or 7, he had 14 interceptions. So, if you're saying Jones is your guy, you're running on second along all the time. You're saying Jones. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with Mario here because basically, I think there was a trust in the last few weeks, definitely in the Colts game and definitely in this game, to where they're letting him kind of rip it, and like they were very conservative throughout the rest of the beginning of the year. I think a lot of times, especially in the red zone, they were just running the ball a lot, and it was with efficiency. They were a top 10 red zone offense this year, so like I wasn't really complaining about him not having a ton of touchdowns because like they were just running the ball a lot. So at the end of the day, like who gives a shit, right? It's a touchdown's a touchdown as far as I'm concerned. But it seems like especially with the Colts game, and especially this week, they're just basically letting him kind of fucking throw the ball. Like, you know what? Go out there and show us what you can do. And for him to respond, because like again, like you didn't see a lot of 300-yard passing games from him, and for him on 24 passes to have 300 yards is pretty damn good. So I'm hoping. I'm happy for him. At the end of the day, I think with Philadelphia, you run that same kind of plan. Let him fucking rip it. The Eagles have not been very good at stopping rushing, so I think they're going to try and do more of a ground attack again. They do have 2 very good corners, former Giant James Bradbury, who made the All-Pro team this year, and then, of course, Darius Slay.
Did he not get injured at the very end of week 17?
I don't think
Bradbury? It wasn't serious.
I don't think it's anything serious.
He walked out. Did he walk off on his own volition? I think I'm remembering that now.
I don't even remember that, but as far as I've been kind of keeping track, I don't think he's expected to miss any games or anything. So
cool.
Yeah, look, I mean, Mario pointed out earlier he thinks that the Eagles are going to choke. I fucking hope.
They looked bad in that week 17 game, and that was against literally people like that are just vying for a slot on the team next year.
Their number one quarterback also wasn't playing either. I think that's just an overall different team with Jalen Hurts playing comparative.
No, Hurts did play against the Giants.
Oh, he did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just but you could tell they were not like really going all out on, like, they weren't really running Hurts a lot or anything like that. He would throw the ball a lot.
They had a conservative game plan, sure.
It was
and
extremely
it's smart,
conservative, yeah.
but
Because they knew they didn't have to. They weren't facing the frontier guys, so they didn't really have. Didn't have Dexter Lawrence. They didn't have Leonard Williams on the field. So, look, I mean, I will say this. I think it's extremely difficult to beat a team 3 times in a row in a year. So, like, the odds of that happening are very low. Giants are a very good road team. They've proven that over and over again. So I feel pretty good about this game going into it.
And
But
we've already seen one team do that this year, so statistically it doesn't happen.
And I agree with Mario that I think the road for the Giants ends in the NFC Championship game, because the 49ers are just a different animal this year.
I did want to ask, though, before I wanted to ask you guys. I know we're talking about the Giants.
That's
but
a hell of a take, Mario.
I wanted to pivot a little bit to the AFC. Is it big deal, little deal, or no deal that the Bills almost lost to
no big
the
deal.
Dolphins? No big deal.
No. The Miami Dolphins have an underrated defense. They played really hard. And I think there's been a wave of emotions ever since the Damar Hamlin thing. So I think Buffalo came out a little flat. I don't expect that to happen again.
It was, yeah, they were. It felt like for a typical Bills home game, there was like no energy in that stadium.
Yeah, I was a little nervous about it because I was watching it, and I mean, Mario's right. It's a third string quarterback, and they were scoring points on them. And
yeah,
you know, I know that Damar Hamlin's injury and what happened on the field still lingers in that with that team, but the thing that bothers me the most is the Josh Allen picks. Like,
yes, the turnovers.
He was playing reckless, and I think he'll clean that up next week. Because again, without the fumble, I think they return a fumble for a touchdown.
Yes.
I think if you minus out those really bad decisions by Allen, I don't think it's that close, honestly.
Okay, but they're going to play somebody with a first string quarterback next week.
That's fine. Again, they're going against the Bengals. I think the Bengals obviously stand a good chance to win that game, but also the Bengals came out fucking flat last night against Baltimore, and they had a backup quarterback. So I don't. And by the way, Jonah Williams, their left tackle, their stud left tackle, out. Kneecap, dislocated kneecap.
Yeah.
Also, Alex Kappa, another one of their guards, probably going to miss the game too. So I think Buffalo's front defensive line is going to eat them up, and I don't think it's going to be close.
I was actually kind of shocked by the performance of Burrow. He now holds the record of like the most knockdowns for a quarterback in the playoffs. I think
they're going to kill him there.
27, and it's but he's at the point now where there was a play. I believe this was in the second half where he felt an arm on him and he just fell to the ground. And
good.
And I was looking at it. I was like, did he trip over some feet? There were feet there, but I don't think he actually fell. I think he just was like, nope, I'm just taking this. I'm taking this L. And that's a very different perspective from a year ago this time when Joe Burrow was scrapping and fighting every second to make a play happen. And to have that change in mindset, I don't know if it bodes well for the Bengals, and I'm in for the Bengals. I'd love to see them make a run after last year. It would be kind of cool. However, what's his name? Taylor there.
Zach Taylor, yeah.
Zach Taylor is probably his own biggest enemy and holding that team back.
I think the two AFC games, the Bills games and the Bengals game, I think they're really good comparisons because both teams played teams that were running backups. Both of them played close. They were both divisional games that ended up being playoff games. So I think there's really some good insight that we can take from both of those to see, like, how are both of these teams going to play each other We never really got a shot to see it, just be given what happened with DeMar Hamlin on the field. And again, that game should not have been played, so I'm not upset at that. But I'll be really curious to see how this goes, because both of these teams struggled in their first game. Both of these teams played backup quarterbacks. Both of these teams came out flat. And I really think Buffalo misses having, oh God, what's his name? Former Denver Bronco, LA Ram defensive end.
Oh, it's bothering me too.
This is great. This is great radio right now. Either when we
yeah, really good. Oh crap, it's good. I want to say Peppers. It's not Peppers.
no, it's a little old there.
Oh, it's bothering me. But yeah,
yeah,
Chief,
Von Miller.
Von
Miller.
Miller.
I think Buffalo is in a bit of a tricky situation because Von Miller's not there anymore, and they need to have like a veteran presence on that front line, and they don't have him there anymore because he's hurt. So
Gregory Rousseau's been really good this year, though. The former first-round pick out of Miami. Ed Oliver, another former first-round pick.
Smaller guy, though.
Yeah, but I mean, so is Aaron Donald's a smaller defensive tackle too. So
no one's ever said that about him.
No, but I mean, honestly, he is undersized. He's only like 6'1", 300 pounds comparably.
So small.
He's no Dexter Lawrence. But no, I mean, listen, I'm not worried about Buffalo. I just think that I think they may have maybe like kind of slept on Miami because of Skylar Thompson. I think they just came out flat.
It's
Josh
Lar
Allen
Thompson, by the way. It's Lar Thompson right now.
Lord, yeah, no ska.
Man.
I'm not really.
He does not wear a fedora.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Buffalo at all. I think that they're gonna. I think they're gonna figure it out this week. It's a tough match. I mean, against Cincinnati, but I think they're gonna win this game. I just don't see it with Cincinnati this year as much as like I wanted to. It just seems like they're again kind of falling flat. So I'm more concerned. That's why like I don't see like how anybody can pick against Chiefs at this point, because like they're getting healthy now. They're resting their guys. Like I just don't see it happening.
It's in Buffalo.
No.
Is the game going to be? I thought they were doing a neutral site.
Oh yeah, it is in. Oh, okay, it's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's in Atlanta. Ew.
I thought because of the oh yeah, because both of these teams squared off. I forgot that they were both involved in that game.
Yeah.
What a crazy. Yep.
We'll see.
There's definitely going to be scoring in that game. Like if it was either in Cincinnati or in Buffalo, like winter effects would have it would have an impact on that game, but they're going to play it in a stadium that looks like a giant sphincter. So don't worry, folks. We're all safe.
The Butthole Dome.
I mean,
the whole dome.
The whole dome.
Whoever loses that game is going to be bitch. I can guarantee he's going to bitch about it.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I again, like going back to the Chiefs, I just don't see how anybody's picking against the Chiefs at this point. They're the only team that has not really. They had a really tough schedule and just kind of blew through it. I think they walk into the Super Bowl. So
we're just looking at right now, like Niners Chiefs. Is that what we're going here? It's gonna be a West Coast.
I have the Eagles in the Super Bowl still, but
still have the Eagles. I have some reservations about Brock Purdy. I think when you have that type of Pro Bowl performance from your offensive line that he's been getting, it makes someone look a lot better than they are. And the guy's only had 5 games or before, going into this week.
I think he's good, but people are starting to go a little too crazy here.
There were a couple of throws where he had to put everything into it.
He had a hospital throw on one play, and I was like, he almost just sent that receiver to the ER.
Yes. I think there's a bit of smoke and mirrors with him. And the funny thing is, it's going to be that same story with the Niners that we've heard all year this year. And it's like, who's our guy? Who do we put as our guy here? And the person they're going to get behind is not going to be that guy. It's not him.
I'm going to make a bold call here. I made a bold call last week with Duval with Jacksonville. I'm going to do it again here. Tom Brady's winning tonight. Tom Brady's winning tonight. I know it's like, oh yeah, the greatest quarterback that ever lived. They're not fucking favorites. I think Tom Brady undefeated against the Cowboys, like I mentioned before. Also mentioned he has the most wins of any underdog quarterback ever. Like when he's an underdog coming into the game, I think that Dallas is going to choke, and I'm hoping this is maybe more hopium than anything else, but I have Tom Brady winning this tonight.
I can see that, and I think that right now the media is already kind of trying to create the narratives for tonight's game. And they have the data. They have more data than they're giving us. And they have the inside scoop on certain things. And it seems like they've been making a lot out of what I would say is relatively, like, I feel like there's not that much for them to go off of for these hunches, but they're saying that Dak Prescott is really going to have a terrible game, and it's like, is this the silent nod that they're trying to create the talking points for next year? Like, hey, like, does Dak stay? Do they look to move
I don't
away from him?
I don't see that happening, and I honestly don't think they're going to move away from him. To answer your question though, Mario, I think for next year, I think Trey Lance walks in unless Purdy wins the Super Bowl. I think Trey Lance is still probably going to be viewed as the favorite to win the job next year.
Then Brock Purdy becomes the new Nick Foles.
I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world being able to have a guy who's a really high end backup. And then maybe in a year or two, you could probably trade maybe for a second round picks to someone. Again, got him with the last pick in the draft. So,
this
yeah,
happens.
and
Jimmy
Jimmy,
G's
I
G's
think
gone.
I think they'll probably let him walk and go wherever he wants at this point. But Tom, you stepped away for a second. My bold prediction: I picked the Jags last week to make it through. I'm picking the Bucks tonight. I think Brady. I think this is going to be a game in which McCarthy gets fired.
My problem with that prediction is just that
I'm not mad at that, by the way.
I wouldn't be mad at it either.
My problem with that prediction though just is the Bucks are like the retirement league of the NFL. I mean, it's just all old people. I mean, that
Listen,
team
I've bet against Tom Brady too many times in my life, and I feel like this is going to
as a
be.
Giants fan, we've bet against Tom Brady quite enough to know
I have
that
no problem with Tom Brady. The Giants have beat him
No.
twice in the Super Bowl,
No,
so
no, no.
I have no issue with him.
That's not no, but I'm just saying we've also been on the other side of making that bet or edging that bet.
Yeah, you know all about edging, don't you?
Big time.
No, but listen, I think this is going to be a game where he's been eating a lot of shit this year. You know, obviously the divorce, the FTX thing, and like everyone's just pretty much Mario, who is a Tom Brady loyalist, does not see the Bucks winning tonight.
I think it's a hard road, man.
It is.
And,
it is.
The Cowboys defense is good. You know, and
it wasn't good the last few weeks.
Look, it's good when it wants to be.
But
let's clarify that.
The Bucks typically have had low scoring games. Most games for them ends up
the Bucks defense isn't bad either, by the
points, and they have a decent defense, but it's again another old defense.
Tom Brady undefeated against the Cowboys, undefeated lifetime.
And what have I been saying all since the beginning of this playoffs is that statistics like that are meant to be broken, right? Like
that's true, but did they not play earlier didn't they play week 1? Am I wrong?
They did play earlier in the season, did they not?
And Dak got hurt in that game, didn't he?
I think it was week 1, if I remember correctly. Yes, it was 19-3.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very low scoring game, and the Cowboys scored 3 points. So that Buccaneers defense is very underrated. I don't know. Mario is shitting all over his favorite quarterback of all time. Man, wow.
You
Not
gotta
ideal.
you gotta wonder. I mean, that lends some credibility, right?
No, he's salty. He's a Pats fan. He's salty.
But
I'm
can we
with you,
just go
Mario.
back
I'm with
to
you, man.
like the Cowboys losing and Mike McCarthy losing his job tonight?
I just can't. The
McCarthy
49ers, there was talk.
undercoaching the game. I could see that being a
The
possibility.
the 49ers game almost cost him his job. And it took a couple days for Jerry Jones to be like, no, we're staying behind him. If after the games that they've had this year and the additions they've made, if he comes out there and they lose in the fucking wild card round, I mean, come on. Like, I mean, again, I want Mike McCarthy to be coach for life for the Cowboys because like he's terrible. But like, and I don't want Sean Payton going there because that would be a fucking disaster. But at the same time, like I think that McCarthy's time is running out.
I would agree. And, I hope very much the same. Like, he essentially turns into somebody Alabama plays every year, and every other year Alabama loses to them just to keep that person in that position to lose again. Like
Right.
the Gus Malzahn of the
Gus
NFL, where
it's a good reference.
Terrible all the time, but randomly would beat Alabama and be like, fuck, we have to hang out with this guy.
Maybe next year will be different, and then it's never different.
This is the year.
Yeah.
I do think there's a chance you could have your cake and eat it too here, Q.
Good. I love cake on the show.
Just because, like, the thing is, he still got them 12 wins this season. So I think he could easily say, look, this is what the Cowboys do in the postseason, and we're working on fixing that. Like, you're gonna get rid of the guy who just got you a 12-5 season. Like,
yeah,
I don't see them doing that right away.
So let me paint a scenario for you then, Gatto, because they've been a good team the last 2 years.
I know what you're saying. Because if they don't bite now on trying to bring Sean Payton in,
yeah,
like, he's going somewhere else. Unless he really wants to play, unless he really wants to hold out and coach for the Cowboys, which
I think they're also concerned about losing Kellen Moore because Kellen Moore is going to end up getting a job soon. I mean, and let's be real, Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, who like should not be a defensive coordinator. He's good enough. I think he was good enough to be a head coach somewhere. He's going to get interest too. That staff's going to start falling apart. And they're going to have to start replacing people. And you're ultimately being stuck with Mike McCarthy, who has made some really number one, does everybody remember what happened last year with the 49ers? Does everybody remember that game?
I have a terrible memory. We know.
All right. So I'll paint a picture for you. For anybody who doesn't remember this game, it was horribly called by Mike McCarthy. They need to score a touchdown to win the game, right? So they're going down the field and they're moving the ball really, really well. And then all of a sudden, with 14 seconds left and no timeouts, they call a fucking QB sneak. And it works. Like Dak gets like 10 yards, gets the first down. They get closer, but they're in like Hail Mary range at this point. They should have just did that. He runs a little too long, takes too much time. They get up. Dak hands the ball to the center instead of handing it to the ref. And then the center tries to spot it himself, which you're not allowed to do. Like the ref has to spot the ball. The ref comes crashing in and picks up the ball and moves it back. And they run out of time. They didn't get to hike the ball off. And it was like Cowboys fans were like, the fucking ref crashed into the fuck. What was he doing? And I was like, well, asshole, you're not allowed to just set the ball yourself. Like, because then I would go, yeah, I'm going to go set the ball at the 1 yard line. That's where we had it. Right, guys? Like, that's not how it works. But McCarthy calls a fucking QB fucking sneak. Like at that point, you need to be hitting the end zone. And like, if you have like a quarterback that can't throw the ball deep, okay, maybe you make a play like that. But like Dak's got a great arm. Why wouldn't you just attack or at least keep attacking the sidelines like they had been doing? Made no sense. Dak made a mental error by not going down fast enough. It would have probably been better and handing the ball to the center instead of finding the ref and handing it to him. But just really bad clock management, really bad decision making by Mike McCarthy.
Which is one thing you kind of always expect out of him. He's always
my overall point of this is that I think Jerry's going to look at him, especially if he loses in the first round to the geriatric Bucks, and if he sees them lose this game against the Bucks, I think he's going to say he can't get us where we need to go. Like, yeah, it sounds crazy firing a coach after a 12-win season, but like people have done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry Jones, not a patient man at all. So I could see him going like, if Sean Payton's available, like that's going to be the move he's going to try and make. Now, whether or not they're successful or not, I have no clue. But like, that's going to be the guy they go after for sure.
Did I lose you guys?
You're kind of cutting out.
Yeah, I think I lost connectivity here.
So, but I honestly don't think that like it's going to be that bad. Like, I think it's going to be a close game, like Mac Jones, weak arm quarterback. Mario, like, you're not happy with that. I think Tom Brady needs to go back to New England. I think that would be a good fitting end for him.
Can we at least try a New England team where Matt Patricia is not the one calling plays?
I think that would be ideal. I've already said this. Bill O'Brien will be the Patriots offensive coordinator next year. Don't you worry, guys.
I just think we need to get a helmet on Steve Belichick, and he'll just give dirty looks and make weird faces at the other team, and that should be good enough. Just that. You can see that? Please tell me you saw that.
Nope.
You don't know anything about that?
No, you run on a 56K modem, so.
Oh, thanks. Great.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we'll do this for Mario. Yeah, I think they have to stick with Mac Jones. He was pretty much on the precipice of like really like a pro. Didn't he make the Pro Bowl year one?
He did.
Am I crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't just walk away from him. I think you need to get him a better play caller. And I think when you look at Bill O'Brien, he's going to probably want to back in the NFL anyway. So a good way to go in is to get back into New England.
He's familiar with the team too. Wasn't there a report about Mac Jones like reaching out to somebody not affiliated with the Patriots?
Yes. There was two things. There was that, and then there was they wanted him to have surgery, and he didn't want to have surgery. So there was some friction kind of throughout the entire year with them. And then Bailey Zappi coming in and then pretty much like having success right away when Mac has been struggling. That, of course, Mario always described it to me that like New England sports radio is always looking to replace the quarterback. Always, like, pretty much like Tom Brady has a bad game, get him out of here. You know, let's go to the backup. And it's pretty funny to see that like they're almost worse than Giants fans with that. Because like the minute Jones had one fumble, everybody was calling for him to be cut. I may have been one of those people once. But now like you're seeing it here that like Mac Jones, I think, was much better than everyone anticipated him to be coming out. So
I mean, I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a quality player. I just think that the Patriots have been fully pilled on the Bill Belichick approach to football, which is like all of our like 1 through 3rd round picks are going to be cut, and we're going to focus solely on guys who we got in the 6th round or played lacrosse at like some small private school in Connecticut.
Yeah, Mario pointed out that Bleach Report says that the Patriots are focusing on Bill O'Brien. Yeah, they're not gonna. Bill's getting old, and I think he realizes that like he doesn't have a ton of time left coaching, and if they keep losing like this, I think there's gonna, even despite him being one of the greatest coaches of all time, they're going to eventually hit a wall where they're gonna say we need to move on. So I think these last few years, he's going to have to bring in somebody. And Bill O'Brien just makes the most sense. I mean, that was the most explosive offense they had in a long time. I believe 2011, he was that was when they were in the Super Bowl. It just makes perfect sense. And he's been I think he's on Alabama now. So, his
contract's up though. His like,
he's definitely coming back.
His retirement, like, yeah. That Nick Saban like diet plan that everyone goes on when they get fired. He was doing that.
It definitely makes sense. But yeah, like I mean, yeah, they need to get receivers. Like I mean, they don't really. They went all in on like Kendrick Bourne and like who's that fucking old Philly receiver?
Nelson Aguilar.
Nelson Aguilar. Yeah. So like they need to go out and get themselves like that's been the one blind spot for Bill Belichick. Like he cannot draft a receiver to save his fucking life.
I remember when they had Chad Jackson and they drafted him out of Florida, and they're like, he's probably one of the fastest receivers in the NFL,
He was terrible.
and he never played.
Yeah.
Never played.
Yeah, he's terrible. And then like yeah, and then the kid at Arizona State they drafted a couple years ago in the first round, and I think they drafted him over DK Metcalf and a couple other guys. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, I think he's on his third team. I think he's in Chicago right now. But I agree with you. Like ever since they got Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, they have not been able to find quality receivers in any way, shape, or form, whether it's tight end, wide receiver, what have you. They've done a good job. N'Keal Harry, that's who it is.
N'Keal Harry. Yeah, N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal Harry, yeah. They've been able to find running backs. Like they've been able to find those guys, but the skill positions that they really need, I think they're just, again, I think they're looking for like cheap Julian Edelmans that they don't have to pay a lot of money for. They're lacrosse dudes, so Bill Belichick fucking loves them to death. Or they're former quarterbacks who just so happen to run around. They just look too hard for like, we need really smart guys on this team. Like, you also really need talented guys too.
Yeah.
And instead of choking it out, like forcing this way of football on people, like y'all were really, really fun to watch when Randy Moss was on the team. You know that, right? Like that was super fucking cool.
Yeah, and it's weird because like they spent a lot of money on Aguilar and also a lot of money on Kendrick Bourne, and I was like, just didn't seem like guys. Now, I mean, like I've been surprised. Obviously, the Jags gave Christian Kirk a lot of money this year, and I was like, that didn't seem like a good idea, and he ends up having a really good season. Yeah, he had over 1,000 yards and close to double-digit touchdowns, so like it worked out. And the way contracts work in the NFL, that like literally that contract will be a bargain in 2 years. So
yeah,
like it's not really like who cares.
He certainly runs like a number one wide receiver.
Brady coming back as wide receiver one, yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love for Tom Brady just to be like, I'm going to play fucking wide receiver now, and everyone's like, okay, you're the GOAT, you do whatever you want. No, but getting back to tonight's game. I think Pollard is playing. If Pollard was out, I would definitely be like 100% the Bucs are going to win. But if Pollard is playing, that's going to be tougher. But they're a really good run defense. And like, listen, the interior offensive line for the Cowboys has been a problem. And Vita Vea on Tampa is the one guy who is really fucking good. So I think he's going to cause some problems for them. I think Dak's going to struggle tonight. Again, maybe this is hopium. Maybe I'm just hoping this happens, but I have a weird kind of like the Jags last week. I had a feeling the Jags were going to beat the Chargers. I think the Bucs win tonight.
Despite not wanting it to happen, I think Cowboys are going to win this out. This is not the Tony Romo era team that just was doomed every playoff run, and I don't really think like that. People might believe it, but I don't think that this team is that same team. I think they have a different attitude, a different mindset. And sure, McCarthy is not the coach, I think, for them, but inevitably in the end, I think they get this done just because I think coaching has been an issue for the Bucs all season long too. And I see it like this game ends up actually being interesting for 3/4 at most.
So do you see this being like a blowout game, or do you see it being a close game?
I think we get into the third. I think we get into the third quarter, and we're just going to see that the Cowboys are going to run away with it. Literally, I think they're going to run away with it. I think we're going to see Tony Pollard making his happening, making his thing on the field, doing his thing on the field. God fucking damn me. I'm still hungover from yesterday. Um, I'm like struggling to
so
fucking
is
get words
everybody
out.
else. So is everybody else who was at Aruga's yesterday,
Yeah,
except for me. But I want to point out something. I think I don't remember the official stat, but it was pretty much like if Dak throws the ball more than like 40 times, they lose almost every time.
That's kind of a
So
common stat, though.
it
overall.
is, but I want to point out though that like if you start seeing a heavy passing game right away, and if they can't get any, and Tampa does one thing well is they stop the run pretty
I
well.
I don't like that statistic because that statistic is blind to the way a game is played. You typically are throwing more because you're either behind
Behind,
big
right?
or there's something happening that's causing you to have to throw more. And let's be honest, a well-balanced game plan is always superior to one that is specifically one-dimensional, air or ground,
I would agree with you, Gatto, but like at the same time, like
Your
if it's like
hopium is
if it
just
no, but I'm saying
through the
though,
Richter right now.
fine. That's all well and fine. But I'm saying though that if it happens like 98% of the time when he throws 30, 40 plus times, whatever it is, then at that point, like, yeah, okay, it's blowout games, right? So they're just playing catch up. But like how many times have the Cowboys been blown out?
I think the statistical odd we need to look at here is how much does his bad decision making go up based on his throws,
Well,
right?
anytime anybody loses a turnover battle, they're typically gonna lose the game. Except for the Jaguars, apparently.
Because
But
that's everyone's big fear going to, like, that's the going narrative for this game is like if Dak is constantly throwing, turning over the ball, they're not going to win. It's like, yeah, I mean that's very evident, you know what I mean? And I think that they do have enough of a ground attack that they won't have to rely so heavily, and I think that surprisingly, I think they'll do a good job on the ground.
so Carlton Davis, Mike uh, Edwards, and Vita Vea, who were all questionable this week, they are playing tonight.
Mm.
So Carlton Davis is going to go on CD Lamb, um, top tier corner. Vita Vea is playing, provides some pressure up the middle. Mike Edwards, a very good safety over the middle of the field. I just think that they're going to be able to slow down CD Lamb a little bit, and that's where like it's going to have to be a big Pollard game because like I don't see Elliott really doing much tonight. If Pollard gets going, that's when it's going to spell trouble because although they're good at stopping the run, they're not very good at stopping receiving backs coming out of the flat. So like that's where it could spell trouble for the
And
Bucks early.
and I don't, and I, well, and again, I don't see the statistics for it, but I want to say that when I do see Tony Pollard get into gear, it's usually in the second half of that game, and that's why they've had a lot of big second halves
Mm-hmm.
this season. And
I
and
also
so,
want to point out. The
uh-oh.
Bucks are getting Ryan Jensen back today for the first time.
Mm.
He injured himself in July. He's back tonight. So that middle of the field for Brady, which has been that middle of the offensive line, which has been a big troublesome spot because
That
Mario
actually
Mario
that
is
is a
always
big game changer, to be honest.
Mario has always pointed out to me that the way you beat Tom Brady is you
Put him on the
just
ground, man.
attack him in the middle because
Oh,
he like if you can tack
okay.
him on the sides, if you tack him on the edges, it's not that big of a deal. Like he can kind of maneuver through the pocket, but like when the Giants were able to pretty much do that NASCAR package, if you remember,
Yeah.
where they were like lining up defensive ends in the middle of the defensive line and were just basically forcing him out of the pocket. That's where it's going to cause a problem for him. So having Tristan Wirfs healthy, I believe Donovan Smith should be playing tonight, and then getting Ryan Jensen back. And look, Mike Evans had 3 touchdowns against the Panthers, so he's kind of starting to get hot now. Yep, pressure in the middle of his face. Yep, absolutely. That's the way to beat Brady. And if Ryan Jensen is healthy, which I'm hoping he is, that's going to at least help. Shaq Mason, Jensen, Wirfs, if Donovan Smith is playing, I feel better about their chances going against the Cowboys.
Tom,
What's
what's
up?
your final say on this game?
I don't think this is the Cowboys' year. Is a shitty year Tom Brady has had. I just the amount of turnovers that Dak has had this year just really bother me. It makes me really nervous. And ultimately, like, I hear so much hype about the Cowboys, but I know they didn't have anything to play for against Washington. I know that game was just they were kind of there, but why did you play all your starters? And the play calling in that game was so weird because, we talked about it last week where Kendall Fuller dropped an interception, and then the exact same play, they threw the exact same pass. Kendall Fuller picked it off and ran it in for a touchdown. Like, everyone says that Kellen Moore is a brain genius, but I don't believe it because we hear that from all of the people who are coordinators with Dallas, and they're always gassed up more than they probably should be. So I think Brady certainly has some tricks left up his sleeve. They've certainly proven that they can throw the ball. And I think that's one thing the Cowboys have been exposed to quite a bit is just people lighting them up offensively. And I don't know. It doesn't seem like a Dallas kind of year. There's not a buzz with this team. Micah Parsons is talking a lot of shit for some reason.
He was like an odds-on favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year in the beginning of the season, and he just disappeared in the second half of the year.
Right.
So
like,
yeah.
I
will say if Tony, like the X factor to me, there's one X factor in this game, and it's Tony Pollard. If Tony Pollard comes out and like just starts getting the ball out in the flat and just ripping yards, like then it's going to be a long night for the Bucs. But otherwise, if they don't get Pollard involved early and often, I don't think they stand a chance.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with the Bucs, just given the amount of kind of like uncertainty that we've seen with the Giants game, with the Jags game. I think there's enough like silly season stuff that's going to happen here because I don't think the Cowboys are as good as everyone's saying they are. And say what you want about the Bucs, they still have Chris Godwin there. They still have Mike Evans. They still have some good players there. And the guy that's still the quarterback, though, has proven that he can still throw it all over the field. So give me them. Let's make it weird.
Let's get fucking weird. What do you think, fellas?
So, well, let's do one real quick thing.
Yep.
So we'll use the hypothetical since this week is not over.
Okay.
Use your team that you've predicted for tonight's win. What do you see for next week's games predictions? We have Jags, KC. I think we're all KC, right?
I don't think that's going to be particularly that close, honestly. I think the Chiefs kind of run up the score there. The line is 8.5 for the Chiefs. I think they cover that. Mario says Cowboys are going to beat them. All right, so it's 2-2. We'll see.
Actually, going to end that one.
Tom, what do you think about that game?
I think Kansas City rolls. They're playing it in Kansas City. Like that shouldn't be a question.
Yeah, it's a Saturday afternoon game. So, Gatto, you're going Chiefs or you're going Jags?
I got to go with Chiefs, man. That team is just, if there's a team that's had their shit together throughout the entire year, it's the Chiefs. They're just doing what the Chiefs do, and you know how good Mahomes is in this time of year, man. So,
all right. So Giants Eagles. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles cover 7.5. That's the line that opened up. I think they're gonna keep. I think the Giants keep this pretty close, but I just think the biggest problem for the Giants has been outside zone runs, and like they just get really beat up. That's why they did not match up well against the Eagles and the Cowboys. Because that's the kind of like the zone blocking schemes that they run. Those like power runs just kill them every single time. So I think the Eagles will do enough to be able to win this game, but I don't think they're going to cover.
Tom?
27-17 Philly.
What was the score?
27-17 Philly.
So you have them covering. Okay.
Interesting. I'm going with the Giants again. Look, this is what the Giants. This is what the Giants
to win outright. To win outright.
To win outright. Giants. This is what the Giants do, right? They find a way into the playoffs, and then they go on these legendary, crazy tears.
I
And
hope you're right.
Don't tell
and
Colin
look,
Cowherd.
look.
Don't even get me started.
I mean, it feels like a risk, but this is like there's like certain things like in DNA of teams, and I feel like
Suspense.
Oh, he's gonna leave us. He's gonna
back in the
leave us
playoffs
wanting
if this is
more.
the case.
Gatto, you left us hanging. You lagged out
I
so
know,
hard. Oh
I
my
know, I know. I
god.
was like, oh shit. But
You
look,
are right. Mario, I hope you're right. The Philly's gonna blow it. Listen, I don't know. I agree with you, and I hope you're right. But to me, it just Philly matches
this
up really well with the Giants.
this is the thing. This team, the Eagles are a good team. Don't get me wrong, but they had the easiest schedule in the NFL.
Yep.
So that kind of inflates their wins. I mean,
Sure.
don't get me wrong, this also means the same for both the Cowboys and the Giants.
Giants
They've also
So
played the
had the
Giants
second.
twice, though. So.
Giants had the second
and
easiest schedule, by the
and
way.
I would make the argument here that the Giants didn't have their shit together as much as they have right now, right? And the first game actually meant something because the Giants tried there. The Giants did not try in that second game. And I think that this break hurts Philly. They're going to be flat for having a week off.
I hope you're right.
I don't know why. It just feels like they're going to overthink it, being that they had 2 weeks to plan for this because they probably thought it was going to be Giants the whole time, and that will hurt them in the end.
I think there was. I think
Hell
there
yeah,
was.
Mario. They're fucking pretenders, man.
I think they felt like it was a collision course. Like I think everyone they were kind of
And,
alluding to it in the game. They were like, it seems like these teams might be facing each
and
other
there's
again. In 2
nothing
weeks.
scarier than having to run into a red hot Giants team in the playoffs. There's nothing scarier for teams out there.
Yeah.
They all know that is like the DNA. That's the makeup of the Giants, man. Like you do not want to see them on the other side of the postseason, man. It is.
I will agree with you
territory.
110. I will agree with you 110% that I think the pressure is solely on the Eagles here because
And-
now they have to win this game. They can't lose this game.
And we, this is football, man. It's so easy for someone to re-injure themselves. And that's the thing. If yeah, 18 Pats know, right? Like that's
now.
it's you could be having a hell of a season and it's going to just take that one play that just alters everything. And I think when you're cold like Philly for a week and you come into this game against a team that has some crazy momentum. This is the Giants. This is as good as it gets for them, right? This is peak Giants energy right now.
I will point out though, Gatto, that even if you are right, which I think you do make a good case for, I think the Giants season ends in San Francisco the week after. So that's going to be kind of leading into my next prediction, which the 49ers, I don't care if they're facing the Bucks or the Cowboys, they're going to roll either one of them.
Niners are just, I mean, that team is just going to make you hurt either way. You got Debo, you got Kittle, you got C-Mac. I mean, holy crap. There's just there's depth everywhere you go on that team, man. It just watching what they made Geno Smith look like at the end of that game, man, it was sad. Like they brutalized the Seahawks. Yeah, I think they roll hard.
Yeah, I agree.
And Giants typically have never done well against the Niners in the playoffs. So
2011.
yeah,
they
but
beat them in the NFC Championship game in 2011.
I think back to
that was also Alex Smith though. So
I was gonna say back. Who was on that team? Ocho Cinco?
49ers?
No, not 49ers. Who was that was on our team? The
Michael
wide receiver.
Crabtree.
Michael Crabtree.
Way back, even further back.
Jerry Rice.
T.O.
Terrell Owens. I remember those games, man. And it was just like the Giants never, ever came out of those games well.
You know what? They beat them in the NFC Championship game in 2011. So I'm not too worried. That was the game that Eli just got brutalized in. Justin Smith and Alden Smith just coming off the edges and just destroying him, and he just kept getting back up. It was great. That was the game. I can't remember. It was the son of a White Sox exec, who was a receiver for them. He fumbled the ball like a couple times.
Kenny Williams.
What was his son's name? Kyle Williams?
I think it was Kyle Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. He had like 2 fumbles on punt returns, and it was kind of the difference of the game. But like that was like a vintage Eli game, just getting absolutely destroyed and just getting back up.
And I gotta ask you, Q,
So,
did you feel that the Giants, like, was luck on their side at all during that Vikings game?
I would normally say yes, but this is the first time, and I'll be going into detail about this for my asshole of the week. This is the first time I feel like the Giants are actually well coached offensively. It always felt kind of fluky when they would have those type of games. So you're like, yeah, luck just kind of got one out in the end. I don't think so much now, because I think Dable and Kafka are just mixing their influences. Obviously the Andy Reid influence from Kafka, and then Brian Dable with the old he is a Belichick type guy, going way back, but he's also had multiple different influences. So Dable just carrying that Buffalo influence, and then with Kafka, I think they formulated a good game plan, and I think they just kind of stuck with it, and it was working.
And that's where typically the Giants have also lucked their way a bit through the playoffs in the past.
The Vikings are also one of the worst
they've actually
defenses.
Yeah, and I felt like they had luck on their side in that game, and they still weren't able to pull it off. And the Giants have done this with what you said. It wasn't luck. It was actual good coaching, great playing. And that's why, with a little bit of that Giants playoff luck, with that, I see them going far. And yeah, there was that moment. I really thought there was a chance that game the Giants were going to lose it when Slayton dropped that ball. I don't see him actually dropping that next ball.
But that's kind of the point, though, that I don't think it was luck, honestly, because like we've had lucky games, but we've also had those games where they just disappear.
No, I'm saying there was no luck in that game.
Yeah, because honestly,
it was all on the skill side of things.
It felt like in past years, like when Slayton dropped that ball, I'm like, of course he dropped it, because like this is what's going to happen. They're going to get the ball back. They're going to score. They're going to go for 2 points. They're going to get it, and it's over. We're going to lose tragically. I honestly, like with Dable and everything, I think about that less, because I'm like, they just seem so well coached at this point, and that like, and you know what? And I also want to point out, big credit to Dable. There's a video of him after Slayton dropped it. He grabs him, and he's like, you can tell him that
on
he's
the shoulder, and he's just like,
Saquon went over to him too and encouraged him, and it just like, it seems like they just have their shit together.
And the cameras were really trying to build that story. Like the production team was trying to build that story, because they kept between every down, they would go and look at him, because Slayton had that look on his face, like I just cost the season. Tom, what's up? What's up, bud?
We're talking about other fucking games, guys.
Sorry, couldn't help it. I just needed to go back to that.
Tom, it's been 11 fucking years since we won a fucking playoff game. Okay, we're allowed to go.
You got 2 championships in 25 years. You're fine. Move on.
They were great too.
Yeah, but we're greedy.
They were pretty
great.
Greed is good.
Yeah. Greed is. I'm fucking Michael Douglas and fucking Wall Street. All right.
There we go.
We had 2 other games to cover, and somehow we got back.
No, we only have one. We only have one more game to cover.
Bengals, Bills,
and
Niners, and whoever wins tonight.
Well, we can't cover. I'm gonna say it. I don't care who wins tonight. Niners blows past everybody.
Yeah,
agreed.
That team is dirty.
All right, Bengals, Bills. Anybody know what the line is?
I think 5.5 Buffalo.
I think they cover that.
Here's the thing, though. It's not a neutral site. I thought it was, but it's not.
What is it?
They're playing it in Orchard Park. It's the AFC Championship game is a neutral site.
Oh, Bills by 1 million.
Yeah.
I think they cover the 5.5 and then some. I'm not worried about it.
I think those injuries that you had mentioned earlier, Q. They catch up to Cincinnati.
Dislocated kneecap. He's not playing this week, and if he is playing, he's not 100%. And Jackson Carman, who came in for him, was god awful.
Dude. And that offensive line already is just
It's already bad.
crumbling.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel bad for Burrow, man, because you know that they're just gonna be throwing a blitz at him every down.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder too, are they going to be all hissy and pissy? Because had they actually played that game a couple weeks ago and the Bengals had won, this game would have happened in Cincinnati.
I don't think it matters.
Well, it does to them because they're going to be upset at it and they're going to use that as an excuse. Like, oh, this could have been a home game. Like, yeah, but why? Why wasn't it a home game? Explain it to us. Because somebody almost fucking died on the field. Let's not use that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, dude, I was so looking forward to that game too. It was a wild game. Like everything was wild that happened, but like
The Bengals
that-
were up early in that game, but again, like with the Bills, like I don't ever, the first quarter, like
it was telling. It was kind of telling though about how frustrated the Bills felt at the end of that Miami game. I mean, how many scraps did we see? The refs were pulling them apart every couple of minutes. They were really getting into it with each other, which I understand because they're divisional rivals. But it felt like the Bills really did have a lot of frustration during that game, and I wonder if a little bit of that does bleed over, and that might be just enough for Cincy to capitalize on.
Yeah.
If they feel like they're stuck in that same gear as last week. That's my only doubt. I still think the Bills win in the end, but
covering 5.5.
I don't know about that one.
I think it's a field goal.
I think here's a crazy prediction. Money Mac misses.
I'm taking Bills with the points. I don't care. I think Bills win by a lot.
I mean, if they do, we certainly know why they would.
Yeah,
I think it's an emotional game for them.
I think we're gonna get a repeat Bills versus Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that combination.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. What do you want to do now?
I guess let's drop it into assholes and picks.
All right, I'm gonna start because it's related to football. I'm getting sick of Colin Cowherd. I really am. This guy just says shit all the time, and like people fact him. By the way, the link I sent you guys, there's a great Twitter follow. It's at back after this.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally a guy who would clip Mike Francesa like videos and like the best videos. I still go through them sometimes. The old Mike Francesa videos, they're hilarious. He obviously Mike Francesa is kind of retired. He has a podcast now. He has shifted to Colin Cowherd because the shit that he says is just ridiculous sometimes. So he was talking about the Giants' victory yesterday, and it's almost like he didn't watch the game because he said the Giants have always been a team that has a great defense and an offense that just kind of makes enough plays. If you watched the game yesterday, the Giants defense struggled pretty much the entire game, aside from a couple situations, and the offense was the main function. But he specifically said that the offense for the Giants usually has a, quote, forgettable player that just steps up at the right time. So he was using this to highlight Isaiah Hodgins, but he mentioned in the forgettable players, quote unquote, Mark Bavaro. Now, for anybody who doesn't know Mark Bavaro, he was a Giants tight end back in the 80s during the 2 Super Bowl runs that they had. 2-time All-Pro. He was an All-Pro in 86 and 87. He had 1,000 receiving yards in 1986. Now, again, remember, this was a time in which teams were not throwing the ball as much. And if for anybody's going to have a 1,000-yard season, it wouldn't be a fucking tight end. He was Gronk before Gronk. Now, if it wasn't for a degenerative knee condition, would have been a 10-team All-Pro Hall of Fame type guy. Even like Lawrence Taylor, like I remember once seeing a video of Lawrence Taylor saying that, like, I don't even joke around with Bavaro because I don't want him to kick the shit out of me. Like, he was just a tough, big dude. And for him to lump in Mark Bavaro, and like Colin Cowherd's a man in his 50s, so he was probably in his 20s during that that Giants run in the 80s. Like you have to know. But he then says Isaiah Hodgins is a quote forgettable player. Now, like he's kind of giving him a backhanded compliment, but like Hodgins was a 6th round draft pick that they got off waivers and stepped in and is become the number 1 receiver and a good number 1 receiver at that. I don't see how like labeling a guy who's finally playing as forgettable. Mario was saying what? Yeah, Mario loves Mark Bavaro. And like he was one of the great highlights of it. I'm just tired of Cowherd. Like it was very much a like backhanded compliment to the Giants winning that game yesterday. Because if anybody watched that game yesterday, you would have seen that it was an offensive display. Also, not mentioning that like the Giants have had elite defensive players throughout that entire run. Michael fucking Strahan, for example, Justin Tuck, guys that were key to that. So I just, it never made any sense to me, but I recommend everyone go follow that Twitter account because some of the shit that like, oh, and by the way, he said 2 weeks ago about the Giants that, oh yeah, Brian Dable shouldn't have to worry. He's already been told that he's safe. So he can just go into this playoff game and like, whatever happens. And I'm like, he's been told that he's been safe.
It's the best team they've had in like 5 years. Like, of course he's safe.
In his first year of coaching, a team that was expected to win 4 or 5 games goes to win 9 games, is in the playoffs, and by the way, wins the playoff game. It goes without saying that he's fucking safe, but of course he has to like highlight it like there was ever real danger of Brian Dable losing his job. He's just a fucking clown.
Yeah, he's the only good thing about Colin Cowherd on Fox Sports 1 is that it's so far away from anything that I watch that I never see any clips from him ever again. Like he was doing stupid shit like that on ESPN when he was still there. And it's just like, this guy doesn't even fucking watch these games. And
it's just sad because he does make good points sometimes, but
the worst guy makes a good point sometime.
Oh God. Yeah. He's a fucking clown. But I do recommend to give a follow to that Twitter account because it's so funny seeing some of the shit that because I don't watch Cowherd at all. But some of this shit, I'm like, man, how does this guy get away with this, saying shit like this?
Yeah, Fox Sports 1 is basically like all of the worst parts of like mid 2010s ESPN, but just like crank the cringe up to 100 because Skip Bayless is also there. And they just stupid fucking opinions. Like you guys don't even watch this. You're just here. I'll go next. So my asshole of the week, I don't know if you guys had heard about like there was a stretch of the answer is yes, Philly. Does the name change mean Tom is podcasting for his job? That is I don't know if you guys had picked up on it, but there were like 3 homicide, suicide, like incidents that happened within like a 3-day stretch across the country. One of them happened here in North Carolina. One of them happened in Utah, and the other one, it was all like murder suicides of like an individual murdering his entire family and then himself.
Notice that.
It's pretty terrifying shit, actually. But I'm pointing my ire towards an obituary for one of the individuals. Michael Haidt shot his 5 kids, his mother-in-law, and his wife of 20 years in his home, and then killed himself. The obituary for him reads like he is God's gift to humanity. It talks about how generous he was, how much he loved life, how much he liked working for other people. And I don't know who approved this obituary of this guy who murdered 7 people, but that person should be fucking fired. It is insane that they let that get out. And there's a lot of people on the internet right now that are reading this and like, how the fuck is this guy being basically honored for being like a member, like an upstanding member of the community, and he's a fucking murderer.
That's become a meme, by the way.
Yeah.
because you'll see it a lot of times if there's like a white dude. Remember I don't remember the name of the guy. He murdered his girlfriend and then was like ran off and was like in the desert or something. I don't remember
Yes.
the name of the guy. Like it's always very commonplace that when it's like a white dude who murders his family, the picture that they use is like some vacation photo, and it's like them all like happy and celebrating, and it's
Yeah.
like, why don't you use this fucking mugshot? Like it's very common. It's become a fucking meme at this point. So
Yeah, it's him eating like one of those big steaks at J&R Steakhouse or whatever, like smiling, holding it up. And it's like, dude, this guy like killed his girlfriend and cut her up in pieces and put her in a duffel bag and then like tried to get on a plane with her. Like you couldn't find any other pictures.
Is there that much taboo about, like talking?
And God was going to leave us in suspense again.
He's coming out with a book.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's just insane that. Well, the thing that was also mind boggling is the number of like murder suicides that had happened in the last couple of days. And then this comes out and it's only just makes it worse. So, I mean, they couldn't find any bad pictures of this dude. They couldn't find like, hey, this is the obit for a guy that murdered his whole family.
What was the newspaper that posted that?
Oh, I'm sure it was something in Utah.
That's not shocking.
Yeah. Church leader turns murderer storyline is so washed up, even the Jets won't sign it. Oh man, true story. I don't know if Gatto is going to be joining us or not, but I would imagine that his asshole of the week is something funny. That's all I got for you right now. Do you want to move on to Picks Q and then we'll just catch up with Gatto if he ever returns again, if the internet lets him back on?
Yeah. I would say my pick of the week I watched last night, The Last of Us. It's the new show on HBO Max. It's based on a video game. I do not know this video game. So I'm kind of glad that I don't, because it's pretty much like all new material to me and I don't know where it's going or anything like that. So kind of something I didn't have with like House of the Dragon. So yeah, I watched the first episode. It was really, really great. Captivating. Cast is incredible. So I'm feeling really good about that. So I definitely recommend giving that a check out.
Yeah, The Last of Us it was like a PC only or a PlayStation only game. And there's 3 games that have come out and they're all excellent. So, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier that, it's rare for like video game shows or movies to break through and to see if they're any good. So I'm hoping that HBO being behind it is going to make it something that people are going to want to see, but also they have enough like production value in it that it doesn't feel cheap like so many other video game shows and movies have felt.
Apparently, a lot of people are saying it's very faithful to the material, like almost shot for shot. So that seems to be garnering a lot of good. But like Rotten Tomatoes right now, there's 97 critic reviews. It's at 99%. The audience score after around 2,600 reviews is 96%. So it seems critical and users are really into it. Now, again, I've been 1 episode in, so I'm still trying to figure out everything because again, I don't know the source material. But it seems like it's gonna go to a couple really good places. So I'm really excited for it.
Have they did they release it all at once or is it one at a time?
No, it's a once a week, Sunday nights at 9:00.
Okay, cool. Well, I was waiting for it to come out. I was gonna make it my pick of the week like a couple weeks ago, but every like HBO Max ad that came out for it never gave like the date of release until like last week. So
yeah, it was pretty much like, I think it was supposed to be first, like pretty much like, oh, it's gonna be first quarter of the year, but then it was like they kind of set it up for January. So I'm glad it came out.
Yeah. I'm going to vamp a little bit, waiting for Gatto to ever return. And I'm going to read some of the picks that were given to fellow mice in our Discord. By the way, if you haven't yet, use that link to sign up for our Discord. I'm going to post it again very shortly. But Philly chimed in with Andor, which is a Disney Plus show in the Star Wars universe. So Philly writes, all the comforts of the Star Wars universe without any major connections to the original trilogy, could stand alone as its own space caper or without being connected to Star Wars. And I agree with that. Like, I've read a lot of reviews. I don't have a Disney Plus account, but I've read enough reviews and I've watched enough stuff on YouTube that says, like, you don't need like the main storyline of Star Wars to hold this show up. It kind of does it on its own. Mm-hmm. And considering some of the flops that Disney Plus has had with the Star Wars universe recently, it's nice to have something that has enough breath or has enough like oxygen to live on its own. Kind of surprised they went with a character from a show that's from a movie that's not even really connected to like the main storyline. The main character is from what's the name of that Star Wars Rogue One, and they were just able to build a show off of that. So I hope they're able to continue it. And did you want to say anything on that?
I think they've kind of squeezed the original material kind of dry, you know, the Skywalker arc. So I think it's good that they're kind of branching out because, like, you know, you can only do number one, like the nostalgia element is kind of gone at this point. So it's
I'd
like,
agree.
yeah, just like start, you can, and I think a lot of times you hamstring yourself with that material. It's like you end up breaking like continuity that some people are kind of pissed off about. So I think you're kind of establishing something that's completely new and that you can kind of make your own, and no one really knows where it's going to go. And there's no, I hate plot armor a lot. So they feel like, you know, you don't really know who's going to be in at the end. I think Mandalorian kind of lives in that space too. Philly saying there's just enough callbacks that it feels familiar without relying on nostalgia. Yeah, exactly. That seems like exactly where it's kind of going. This is like a lot of people are saying Andor is really good, and critically it's also been heralded well. So I'm interested to see. I'm kind of gonna dig into that soon.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I think what they've tried to do now is doing a little bit of revisionist history with the entire storyline. And I get a little nervous when stuff happens like that. So
yeah,
I think there is, again, I think there's enough there. And even, I think to be honest, I think the Star Wars universe is so interesting on its own. Even when we're not getting into like the Jedi, like the overall, like, that the Empire is interesting on its own. I think you're able to build enough around it to make it compelling. So that is Philly's choice. One of the other ones was from Nate. Nate went to Atlanta this weekend and he said, my pick of the week is the homeless lady in Atlanta that called me sexy pudding cup while I was walking down the street. It's a little bit different of a pick of the week, but we're good with it. So Philly, Nate, appreciate your input to the show. And one can only hope we're all called a sexy pudding cup at one point in our lives. And Gatto, welcome back. I hope the satellite dish moved for you.
Yeah, we're just outside of the sun's noise signal, so we might have about 15 minutes before I go dark again.
Well, do you want to go with your pick of the week? Oh, you got to do both now.
Oh, I gotta do both. Yeah. So I'll just try to do this quick. My asshole of the week is actually pretty interesting because I feel like this is like the Elizabeth Holmes of fintech. JP Morgan recently filed a lawsuit against a Charlie Javis.
Oh, no.
And it's a the millennial founder of a student aid facilitating platform called Frank.
Yikes.
And it's basically what they allege, and as the story goes, is that they sold this fintech company over to JP Morgan. They made like 175 million, I want to believe was the number, right? So they got paid bank. Essentially what they did was they paid a college professor $18,000 to fabricate 4 million accounts. It was actually going to be 13,300, and they said if he went back and he changed the invoice so that it didn't make them as guilty, they'd give him an extra 5K or whatever it was.
Gulag.
Yeah, there's something extra cringe too about millennial fraudsters. It's just like our entire generation kind of relies on being these like half truth, fakes. Fake it till you make it
Altruistic
culture.
fakes. Like,
Yes.
so Gatto, is that your pick of the week or is that your asshole of the week? Are you telling us to invest in this?
This is my asshole of the week. I would
Okay,
never tell
just
you to
one-
invest in this. This is the like fintech version of Bitcoin or Dogecoin. I don't know, whatever you want to say. It's just what I find exceptionally ridiculous and terrible about this is that JP Morgan bought in at such a high margin a a student aid platform. I assume with the intention of making every bit of their money back, right? Like
Naturally.
there's at a time when we're talking about student loan forgiveness and what have you. um it's kind of like it's kind of satisfying in the sense that like JP Morgan kind of got fucked a little bit here for
I don't.
buying a phony, but like the end of the day is like the people that basically signed on for this student aid platform are the ones that really, I feel bad for, because that those 300,000 accounts or whatever that they created, or no, the 4 million user accounts that they created did generate like 300,000 legitimate accounts. And you know people you know people are already being fucked around enough for their student loans and what have you, and it's just
I don't.
yeah,
I never mind. I never mind seeing Jamie Dimon eat shit. So
It's always a good feeling when that happens.
yeah, he's a fucking
yeah.
piece of shit.
Sometimes when they make those cocky for me, fuck, I'm already going dark here.
Quickly, pick of the week.
So this is what happens when you try to cast out of a black site.
Pick of the week,
Anyhow.
Otto. Quickly.
Pick of the week is going to be Sick. It's a slasher film on Peacock that kind of teases at and kind of pokes fun at our current zeitgeist.
Okay, Sick on Peacock.
Got it.
Zeitgeist, something, Peacock. Okay.
Pokes fun
Quarantine.
at it.
I'm so mad. It's just one of those fuck you Mondays. So
it's all good. Watch. Okay, so you can go into it a little bit more next week. Sick on Peacock.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone out there.
No,
listening.
you're good. No, you're all good, man. It happens. All right, Tommy, you want to take us out?
Well, my pick of the week is.
Oh wait, you had. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I wanted to forfeit it to our friend who is operating on the moon, but the moon is orbiting in the wrong direction. My pick of the week is actually a YouTube show that's ran by Porsche, and it is Road to Le Mans with Michael Fassbender. So Michael Fassbender, for the last 5 years or so, has been trying to break it into professional racing. He's racing in European GT cars and European Le Mans. Ultimately, his goal is to race in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is a 24-hour race. It's a really interesting show because it's him trying to learn how to be a competitive race car driver while also understanding the dynamics that come with a racing team. It's all available on YouTube. All you got to do is type in Road to Le Mans, Michael Fassbender. He's quick. I mean, he's got talent. And I was watching one of the races that he was in where somebody effectively ran into him when he was racing at night, and he was able to bring the car home. But all the same, him and his team have gotten a couple of podiums already. So Le Mans is coming up, I want to say in June or July. But again, it's really different because it's endurance racing, which is not like a timed number of laps. We're going to race for 24 hours straight. This is how it's going to go. And I believe it's with World Endurance. So, it's 8 hours here, 12 hours here, 24 at Le Mans. It's a long time to be in a car, but it's really compelling. It's really well edited and shot too. And there's some really good insights on there.
And this is Michael Fassbender, the actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If only he was better at picking movies as he was as racing.
Yeah. He's had a pretty tricky time the last couple of years.
He went right from Snowman to what's that? Assassin's Creed. So he picked a couple clunkers right in a row.
Yeah.
Gatto, Sick. I didn't realize Sick. The movie Sick was actually written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote the original Scream. So definitely very well known horror writer. So I'm into that. I will be watching that probably later.
Yeah, should be cool.
Cool.
Did you get that?
Yep. Yeah, we did. Yeah. We're good.
I can't even. I'm having trouble at the point. I got so much delay on my side. I gotta clean this shit up for next week. It's gonna be fun.
All right. Well, I think we're good to go, guys. Tom.
Yeah. So I mean, that does it for us, folks. Thank you again for tuning in to the Second Mouse podcast. Streaming it on Twitter tonight. Thank you for all the folks who came out. Thank you to Philly. Thank you to Mario. I know that Nasty Nate was out there as well. We appreciate all the support y'all gave us. You can check us out on Twitch at Second Mouse. You can also find us on Discord as well. We had the Discord link running at the bottom of the screen for a while on this one, so please feel free to jump in. Gatto has done a fantastic job when he's not fighting with his modem of building out that Discord so it covers pretty much whatever you want. But if there's something that you want to talk about that's not going to get us arrested, we'll be happy to build a channel for you.
Yeah, please.
Lastly, thanks, Gatto. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gatto.
Yeah.
Lastly, do us a favor and give us a like and a follow on all of our social medias on Instagram and on Twitter, but also too, if you can help us out and listen to the show and refer it to your friends, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, Podbean if you want. We're trying to build out this YouTube channel, so give us some help here as well. Ultimately, this is a show for all of you. We want to just be able to talk about whatever we want. We're going heavy in football just because it's America's game right now. But we got other topics. Send them to us. We'd be happy to talk about them. Let us know in the comments how you feel. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Deuces, team.